This is the Recovery Lab.
Here we dive deep into the struggles, victories, and hope that stem from recovery.
No shame, no judgment, just truth, grace, and inspiration.
Let's walk this road together.
Hey guys, happy Sunday. Welcome to Recovery Lab. I'm Bryn Knox.
I'm Daniel Anderson.
And today we are joined by Joe Bielling. Hey, Joe.
Howdy, y'all.
All right, let's get it started. Joe, tell us what you had for breakfast.
Oh my goodness. All right. Well, it's kind of a guilty pleasure. I'm really into this chocolate protein shake that tastes like a brownie. And I probably am kind of living on it for a while. But yeah.
Which one is it?
Oh man, it's a whole thing. Okay, so it's protein powder, blueberries, almond milk, dark chocolate cacao, hemp seed, flaxseed, and something else. Anyways, it's a whole thing.
Yeah, it sounds like a whole thing. Okay.
It's a whole thing.
You'll have to send it to me. I'm looking for a good protein shake that doesn't taste like that. Okay. Yeah. So anyways, for real though, tell us about you, Joe. Tell us about what you do and why we're here today.
All right. So, I love your intro because it alludes to this idea that we're all really on this path. And I think a lot of us, myself included, have felt like we're on a journey by ourselves. And at some point you realize that we're all on a journey together. And that's kind of where I'm at these days. I think I've spent a lot of time focused on who am I and why am I here? And I think we all have struggles and pain and stuff in our lives to sort through. And I feel like I'm at a place where I have a okay handle on that. And I want to just like be in collaboration. I want to be sharing what I know and what I've learned, if it's helpful for folks, and also be in support of, people finding their way. So I think that answers your question.
Yeah. Okay. So one thing that I think is really interesting that you are really passionate about is internal family systems.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time I heard that term, I just sort of checked out because I was like, I don't know what these people are talking about. Mm-hmm. And so explain internal family systems to me like I'm 5.
Sure. So, sometimes when you have different feelings, like you might feel like, oh, this piece of cake makes me happy. And then, oh, I hurt myself and that felt bad. So inside of us, we have lots of different thoughts, feelings, even energy, and what we call parts. So there might be different parts of you that have different kinds of experiences. And so internal family systems treats all these different parts inside like a family, like brothers and sisters that kind of fight with each other, parents that have rules around how to be in the world. And inside of all of us, we have a whole world that has rules and beliefs and things that we learned along the way on who we are and how to be in the world. And so IFS gives us kind of a roadmap to understand this inner world of parts. And it also kind of gives us an insight to, aside from these different parts of us that have thoughts and feelings and beliefs and kind of conditioned responses, there's another thing inside of us, like an awareness. Like I could tell you, pay attention to your toes, or I could tell you, pay attention to your hand. Or in mindfulness meditations, we talk about pay attention to your thoughts. So the you that's paying attention to things, this kind of like awareness that you can move around and put on things. In IFS, we call this the higher self, capital S, self.
You call what the higher self?
This awareness, the one that's paying attention and looking at things and in relationship to these different parts of me. So, for example, I have an inner child part of me. I call him Chicken Little. So, Chicken Little is very nervous and like always like looking around and concerned like something bad's going to happen.
Mhm.
So, if I treat this like a part of me, I can kind of visualize Chicken Little, get a sense of what those thoughts and feelings are like. And I can think about memories and things that have happened in my life that remind me of that Chicken Little experience. But then I can step out of this Chicken Little part of me and actually talk to him. Be like, hey, little guy, what's going on and what happened to you? And so there's a way that I can be in relationship to this part of myself. And the me that's talking to Chicken Little is if I can settle into an open, present, compassionate, caring, loving energy, that's self energy. That's my higher self that's paying attention to different parts of me inside.
Okay. Okay.
Can I just jump in real quick?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And listeners, viewers, prepare for a rant here because I'm very passionate about this. All right. So internal family systems, I had no idea, like you, Brent, I had no idea what the heck it was about. I really didn't. But my therapist, right before I was about to get sober this time, my therapist was like, hey, have you ever heard about internal family systems? I was like, no, I have no idea about it. And we started working on this. We worked on it every week for almost 2 years.
Hmm.
And what really allowed it to click for me was I'm a very visual learner, right? So when I see something, when I do something, it sticks with me. If I read something in a book or hear someone talk about it, I'm just like, my brain's like, oh, shiny things,
Mhm.
wind in the air. Like I can't focus. But my therapist, and I think he worked or he was trained like underneath Richard Schwartz was the one that started it, right?
One called
Yes.
Paul.
No, a different Richard Schwartz. So
That's so much.
so my therapist worked like directly under, and it sounds like you did too, Joe, directly under or
Mhm.
somewhere like right below. So anyways, he had a very good grasp on the term flame system. What changed things for me was my therapist was like, all right, Daniel, I want you to look around in my office and I want you to get like 8 to 15 different items and I want you to place them on the center of the floor. I was like, bro, like
Mhm.
at this point, I was still like taking Adderall. So I was like, look, I may be high, but I'm not crazy. Like, what are you asking me to do? He's like, no, just trust me. Just trust me. I was like, all right, fine. So he had like rubber ducky. There was like a little dinosaur figure. There was like a piece of paper, and I lined all of these random objects down in the center of the floor. And he was like, all right, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go item by item, and we're going to identify what part within you is this item. So we started looking at the firefighters and the exiles and all of the parts that made up me. And he said, and we kind of discussed about that. That session was about 2 hours actually, because we really dove into and leaving that appointment, I had this new visual of all of the parts. And I also began to realize that all of my parts are inherently good. There are none that are bad. Like, and that was when it really clicked. Like, there's no bad part of me, just parts that
Mhm.
are highly activated. And ultimately, all they're trying to do is help me to feel safe, loved, and protected. But they don't know how all the time. So that's where self came in. Like, self is like being like me. And then the way I see it, God is behind me, God is behind self, and then self kind of answers directly to God, and then my parts answer to me. So being able to visualize all of these things, suddenly it just clicked. And my therapist was like, all right, what I want you to do, what our goal is for you to be able once a week or once a day, however long it takes, for you to sit on a big chair in a big room. And all of these items that are lined up on the floor, all of these are your parts, and they're going to be sitting on a big couch in front of you. And your goal is to listen to each one of these parts, let them give you information, because what they're offering is only information. I don't have Self doesn't have to act on it. So get to a spot where I self can sit on a couch or on a chair and be talking directly to these parts as their leader and as someone who genuinely loves them and wants to help them. And so now when I have these, and I've been practicing this has taken lots and lots of practice. But now when something gets activated in me, I get fearful, I get angry, I get whatever. My first thought is, God, I'm a piece of crap. Like, I can't believe I'm thinking like this. No, my first thought now, as a result of internal family systems training, is okay, let's run to that part. Let's hear that part's information and let's see how we can help that part feel as loved and appreciated as humanly possible. And when you begin to do that, suddenly those parts start to feel secure. They start to feel okay that you have their best interest in heart. And when you can get there, suddenly I have absolutely zero negative self-talk and negative self-hatred. IFS literally changed my life. It saved my life. So that's why I'm excited to talk to Joe today. And from there, I'm just going to kind of butt out and handle the production. But I had to say that because IFS literally saved my life.
Yeah, that's so cool to hear. And I'm
Yeah,
sure
beautiful.
Joe's had a lot of, I'm sure he's had a
Mm,
lot of experiences with a lot of clients that, feel the same way.
sure.
And I'm glad that you mentioned parts, Daniel, because like, all right, Joe, like I remember when I was in therapy, like, can you tell me more about the parts? And I'll tell you a little bit about like one of my experiences with it and why I struggled with
Hmm.
some of it was because I had to talk to my like inner child or whatever you call. I had to like
Hmm.
picture myself at a certain age
Hmm.
and talk like we were all sitting at a dinner table or something like
Hmm.
that. I had to picture that.
Hmm.
And I had a hard time talking to her because
Hmm.
I think like my mom, like I grew up with a lot of like tough love.
Yeah.
And then also we don't like, I think she was going through so much behind the scenes. It was really important for her, for all of us to act like everything was perfect and, don't like just be quiet, sit down, and don't make a scene here. Like
Hmm.
everything's good here. And so I
Hmm.
had a hard time treating her any other way than
Hmm.
that. Tell
Hmm.
me more about like parts and stuff.
Okay. Can I use what you just shared as a bit of an example?
Absolutely. I love talking about myself. So go for it.
Yeah. Yeah. And Daniel too. So Daniel, you mentioned this like voice or thought or feeling like I'm a piece of crap,
Yeah.
right?
A daily occurrence every day, all the time.
Right.
Piece of crap.
And Bryn, you were just mentioning your mom had this like tough love, like way of caring about you guys, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And in that lens was like, try to be perfect, stay quiet, behind the scene, whatever all those messages are.
Hmm.
So when you went inside to talk to your little girl, you kind of had the filter of your mom inside with you. Does that sound right?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So it could be helpful for you at your conference table to imagine that you have a mom part that wants to talk to the girl with the filter like your mom. So if you can kind of get a sense that you have a mom part that really wants to be with that little girl in a certain kind of way, what you could do is try to pause and notice the mom part of you. Where did she learn to do that? And who is that? Is it your mom? Like maybe you have a visual or an energy of your mom inside of you, like a part of you that's how I learned to care about kids.
I don't
So
understand. Okay, so the mom part, that's not me as like a mom in real life. That's like me as a mom to little me, right? Is that what you're saying?
so it can be both. Are you a mom?
I am
You learned how to be a mom. Does that sound right?
working on it.
Right. And a lot of what you learned was from your mom.
Yeah.
And all I'm saying is we kind of have these internalized like filters. And to your point, Daniel, none of these are wrong. They're not bad. It's just what we learned. And So all I'm saying is you have some thoughts and feelings about how to be with a little girl. And those were kind of coming online when you were relating to your little inner child. Does that sound right?
Yeah, and just like I worried about like my lack of compassion towards her,
Uh-huh.
and like
Okay.
she was just annoying. Like she
Uh-huh.
annoys me.
Okay. So now I want you to pause, and instead of focusing on the little girl, see if you can imagine yourself as a mom. Think of you, the mom. It might even be just imagining yourself. Let me know if that's possible.
I mean, yeah, like I'm imagining, like because I am a mom, so I'm just
Yeah, just imagine yourself.
thinking about me.
Okay.
Okay,
And what do you like? What do you see in her? How do you see her? Is she a good mom?
I think so.
Uh-huh. And what is she doing? Is she in some scene or situation, or what are you noticing about her?
I'm noticing how difficult it was for me to leave them to come here to record this. They were out in
Hmm.
the yard playing.
Hmm.
Is that normal?
It's,
Is
of
that what you're trying
course, of course, you care about your kids. So just keep focusing on you, like the adult you, that's a
Okay.
mom, and
Mhm.
then see if you can literally like visualize her. And then do you see her somewhere where, like, how are you imagining yourself?
I don't know, because I'm focusing more on like image
No
than like
problem.
who I am on the inside. I feel like
Uh-huh.
I'm failing.
You're not, no, what, just tell me what you're noticing. What are you seeing? Or what are you imagining?
What I think it's like bringing up body image issues, and that's not what we're talking about.
Okay, well, you can
Like,
see
she
how
looks kinda
quickly it can
pale.
get.
She should
What's
do
that?
more squats.
What's that?
I'm like, "She looks kinda pale and she should do more squats." Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's what I was thinking about. I'm a terrible patient.
Hmm. So even in your words, I mean, there's some flavor of like criticism, or you're, I don't want to say you're judging her, but you're like,
Oh, I'm
you're kind
judging.
of right.
Yeah.
So I want to get to this point, which is I think that all of us have an inner critic,
Mm,
some part of us that is trying to decide what's right and wrong, how to be in the world, and to kind of leave this kind of little mini exploration that you and I were just doing. You can, I mean, when you listen to this, back to this, you'll hear that as I was talking to you, there's kind of different pieces of you coming online. There was the little girl. We were talking about you as a mom. So I would suggest that you imagine you have a mom part, a part of you that is a mom, and you could talk to her. And then this other thing came online, which you started kind of like analyzing yourself, what you look like. That
mhm.
could be another part, like a critical part. So you could see how easily this could get really like super complicated. Um, and let's see, I don't want to get too far in the weeds here, but the point is
It's
try
so
to just keep
complicated.
slowing it down and just noticing the different thoughts and filters and the ways you see yourself. And back to kind of Daniel's point, he had this voice of like, you're a piece of crap. And he did this exercise where he put all of his parts, visualize them as figurines or on a couch. And he just started this practice of like being in relationship to talking to these different dimensions of him and saying, hey, what happened to you? And what's your story? And what are you trying to tell me? And the one who is talking to them, the one who's looking at everybody on the couch, he was, as you start to separate from all these different parts of you, you kind of land into a very open, present, curious, whoa, what do you need to say? What are you about? This part of ourselves that's a very natural, curious, loving presence. And this kind of higher self and this practice of being with different parts of you and being in relationship to them is very healing and very profound and very magical. And to your point, Daniel, I have many clients, myself included, that IFS has been such a beautiful map to learn to love ourselves, honestly, which I think
Right.
is the whole point of why we're here, is to try to learn how to love who we really are and bring all of that deep, loving compassion of presence and God or source or heart energy into our lived daily experience. And I don't know. I feel like that's an endpoint of what I want to say.
Yeah, no, you're doing great, and this is really great. It's really interesting to hear more about it. Daniel had mentioned the firefighters
Mhm.
and I forget the other. There's 3 parts, right? Or 3 like
Yeah.
labels.
So if you think about some parts of you are trying to protect you in some way, like if I'm in a relationship or I'm talking to someone, I might have a part of me that's kind of defensive.
Mhm.
So a protective, defensive part of me. And those defenses sometimes can be very reactive, like somebody says something and then I react and I get very reactive. Or the defense mechanism might be uh, more proactive, like, oh, I'm going to move away from this person, or I'm going to make sure I don't talk to them again. So there's two kinds of protective mechanisms. One is a manager that's very proactive, like, oh, I think that I'm going to manage my life and do my life a certain way so that I don't get hurt, or I can protect myself. And the other is a firefighter, which is a more reactive kind of protective mechanism where something happens to me and then I do maybe more of an extreme kind of reactive response. Um, and then the third part is what we call exiles. So when you exile something, you kind of send it away. It's like banished to the cellar or whatever. And the word exile is meant to talk about these really vulnerable parts of us that are often like inner child, wounded, vulnerable places that our psyche wants to kind of exile or tuck away or put in the basement or hide from everyone else because they're the most kind of vulnerable parts of ourselves that we don't necessarily want to expose. So exiles, managers, and firefighters are the three kinds of parts.
Exile is one of my favorite Taylor Swift songs. Um, and I'm wondering, is that where my little girl is? Like, is that what that like, is she an exile or is
Yeah, it could be really helpful not to get too caught up in the language of the IFS stuff
okay.
because I have a very joyful, playful young part of me that I wouldn't say is exiled. I mean, he's not hidden. And because of through this work, I've learned to really like let him come forward and be more part of my day-to-day experience. So the word exile would be a part of you that is kind of hidden from view or tucked away or being protected in some way. But the word exile stops being as useful at some point because this young part of you isn't really locked away anymore.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. I wanna know more about, like, what about you and what and your experience your personal experience with it, and, like, what are some parts of you and what are some things that needed healing? Is it okay to ask
Mhm.
that? Like, do you mind
Yeah,
talking
sure.
about it?
Sure. Oh boy. Hmm.
Surprise!
Yeah. So I grew up in a pretty like conservative religious environment, which was actually beautiful and great, and until it wasn't. Um, when I kind of discovered that I'm gay, it became a problem. And I feel as though what happened inside of me was there were ways that I was attempting to belong and be a part of my family and my church and my community. And I think within all of us, we want to like belong, be accepted, trust the world outside of us. And that became a challenge as a gay person.
Did they know you
Um,
were gay or you were it was a challenge because you were scared to admit?
so both. I came out in college. I went to private school growing up, and the college I went to actually sponsored summer programs to convert gay people. So I was in an environment where basically being gay was like bad. It was like
Mm.
wrong.
Yeah.
Sickness.
Yeah, and to be honest, like up until the 70s, you know, our cultural psychology said that homosexuality was like a sickness, an illness. And a lot of human beings have grown up with that kind of understanding of our sexuality. And so the issue for me was it became a challenge to try to discern, what do I feel authentically inside that's me, and can I trust that versus what I'm being told is me. And so that kind of journey of learning to love and accept myself and has kind of been my path, I would say. A bit of like religious exploration and trying to understand, who am I and what does it mean to be Joe Bielling as a gay person, and also to not over-identify that I'm not just a gay person. I'm lots of different dimensions of me, which I think IFS has been a very powerful map and tool to understand that I am more than just one aspect of myself. So my journey was about going to a place where I started to investigate, why do I feel like I'm wrong? Why do I feel like there's something wrong with me? And my religion taught me that homosexuality is an abomination. And that landed so deeply that in college, I hit a place where I was like, am I the devil? I mean, am I so deeply flawed that God is rejecting me, and should I even be here? Um, it was a very difficult time, and I had to decide at that moment, like, do I trust myself, or do I trust these words on a page? And I had to choose myself or not be here. So I chose to be here. And what that means was I had to kind of dismantle a whole understanding of God and who I am and all the things that I've learned, and try to trust my innate internal nature. And so,
What did that dismantling look like?
hmm, the very first feeling was that I'm alone, that no one understands me. I'm all by myself. And if I can't trust God and the church, then where do I go? So it put me in a place of feeling very secluded. And the dismantling it was like a house of cards, you know. If someone tells you that a piece of the Bible isn't right, then you start to question, well, what else is not right? Or what else am I misinterpreting? Or so that dismantling process started around like religion, but then it just became about, all the things that I've learned. And I think that's why I went into psychology, because I wanted to really deeply understand this kind of meaning making machine of our mind, and what are all the decisions that I made that tell me who I am, and what did I learn from other people. So the dismantling process, I think, was trying to discern, like, what was I taught, and can I reevaluate that as like true for me in my direct experience, and, you know, just like a deep internal exploration. Um,
Yeah.
you know,
With those feelings of loneliness, like, that you were talking about, how you felt like, no one got you and you were the
Mhm.
only one in the world, like, what did you do, like, in those moments? Like, what did you turn to? What did what did you do to, like, stay alive and keep breathing and keep going? 'Cause that sounds painful.
So within all of us, there is a very, very powerful need to belong.
Mhm.
And the struggle for me was, if I accept myself, my mind was telling me that that means I don't belong to my family and my church and my community, that I will be rejected, basically.
Mhm.
So it sets up this internal dynamic of fear of being rejected. And so what I had to do was start finding people that wouldn't reject me. And I think for many of us, and wherever you are in your life, when you feel alone and you feel like I'm the only one, you try to find community. You try to find people that get you, that understand what it's like, to be a single mother with, with low income, an African American person, a gay person. You try to find community. You try to find people that understand your experience. And so that's
Where
what
did
I
you
did.
find where did you find your community?
So thankfully, I started seeing a therapist in college who happened to be a priest, because that was still important for me to try to find this middle ground of like, how can I be myself and be a part of my religion?
Mhm.
Um, and honestly, I'm very lucky because that particular priest did not view homosexuality as wrong. And he helped me learn to love myself and accept myself. There were other therapists that were priests on that campus that, if I had seen them, they would have recommended that I try to change myself and go through all these electrical therapy things. And so I actually see that as, now at this point in time, as like a gift from source or God, or I don't know why I lucked into that experience. I forget what your question was.
Do you 'cause, we chatted yesterday,
Hmm.
and I told you about how I am a Christian and I love my church and, it's really important to me. Is it difficult for you do you get nervous to talk to me or anyone like me about these kind of things? Because 'Cause you'll feel like you're judged or you don't belong with me?
So if you'd have asked me that 10 years ago, I would say yes.
Mhm.
But I don't feel that way now, because I've been inside of myself with the parts of me that took on the beliefs of my church and community. And I've reconciled that within myself. Um, I I know who I am. I do think that I am innately a person who is deeply passionate and caring and loving and kind. And I think that's who we all are at our core. And I think all of these beliefs and ways of understanding ourselves, and religion as an organization, creates containers for people to come together and have a shared experience. And all of that's awesome. It's awesome to come together and be with people that feel like they're like me. We all feel and experience things and see the world in the same way, and we can celebrate that together. And that's great. It's great until, if part of your perspective is, what I think and feel and believe is the only way to think and feel and believe, and if someone else has a different point of view, then they're wrong. I don't believe that. Um, so I I I try to stay in places where I'm in contact with people that feel open to me having my own experience and understanding of why I'm here and how to be here. And as long as people are open to that, then I'm happy to like be in connection. But you're right. If I'm in a situation where I feel like someone is judging me, I guess how I hold it now is I see it as there's something inside of them judging themselves that's unresolved, and it really has nothing to do with me. Um, but yeah, I am fearful sometimes because I feel like culturally we live in an environment that is deeply informed by pretty conservative religious belief systems. And, being a gay person is typically not part of that viewpoint. Well, there's something really important here
Yeah.
that I do want to say, which is when what what took me down the rabbit hole of my own inner experience of trying to figure out who I am and why I'm here and how to love myself and all of that, which I think is a very common human experience. The baseline place that I got to was at some point in time, religion taught me, right or wrong, because I believed it, that who I am as a sinner is innately bad. And my sexuality like magnified this idea that I'm a bad person. And I had to go back and unwind all that because I feel that we are innately good and that we're on this planet and life to try to support each other and love each other. And I changed my baseline belief that God is about judgment to God is about love. And when that switched, and I realized that, hey, I'm a creature of all creation, just like everything else, and there must be some purpose and reason why I'm here. And maybe I can just trust my own direct experience and lean into that and, share that with others.
I would love to talk about your book. I know I saw it's for pre-order right now. But when
Sure.
I was reading on the website, like what it's about and stuff like that, it sounds really cool and really interesting. So can you talk more about that?
Yes. So it kind of ties in a lot of what we've been saying. Um, for a long time, I thought I was broken. And I think a lot of human beings feel like there's something broken about them. And in your life journey, as you investigate that, you might realize that these things that you've always thought were broken about you turn out to be the most valuable, the most amazing things about yourself. And in this book, we lean into some principles of IFS and also what's called somatic practices, like really being in your body and expressing your thoughts and emotions and energy of who you are, and some very practical like exercises and meditations and ways to just discover yourself, like understand what's going on in there. And so I'm trying to bring to the masses a very like fundamental understanding of IFS and how your mind works. And what it all boils down to is we have these different aspects of ourselves that are all focused on adapting to our environment, adapting to the world, making sense of the world. It's our mind, it's our meaning making machine that is trying to understand and adapt. And the message is you are not your
Mm.
mind. You are not the one trying to adapt. You're not the one trying to hide and react and that's afraid. You're not the one that's like wounded and hurt and broken. That there is a you inside that is love. And my hope is that through these personal stories and sharing what I've learned in my own lived experience, and I co wrote this with my really good friend, Kate West.
Tell me about her. How do you
Um,
know her?
yeah. Oh, so Kate and I met through a mutual friend. And we just got on the phone and we started talking and had such a beautiful conversation. And she's in the world of like kundalini and like energetic expression in the
Wait, what's
body. And she has a
Kundalini? You
when
said that
lightning.
like I should know.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So let's see. If you think of like
Uh-huh.
breathing, that is air moving in and out of your
Right.
body, right? So without getting too in the weeds about the word kundalini, um, have you ever done any kind of like movement, like dancing or even exercise, like where you feel like you're in, like the energy in your body kind of like ramps up
I
and gets
think I'm a great
released,
dancer.
something like that?
Nobody else does that.
Okay. So
Mhm.
when you're dancing, how does it feel in your body to just be like
It feels
moving around
great.
like that?
I mean, the beats, man.
Yeah, right. So this idea of trying to kind of understand that kind of energetic aliveness inside of you is the whole world of like kundalini. And so that's what they're trying to do, is understand how does this energy kind of move in and out of your body and what does it mean and what's that about. So Kate's in that world, and she had a very traumatic kind of like process where all this energy inside of her was so big and massive and just kind of like she felt very confronted and confused, and she was going into all these medical facilities trying to understand what was going on with her. And for years she was in a bit of a psychotic episode where her mind and her body and energy, everything was very kind of disorganized. So she started to make a film about it. She's a filmmaker called When Lightning Strikes, and I think there'll be a link to her page in our notes. But yeah, so we met because, and we started having this conversation about like energy and kundalini, and I was telling her about IFS, and she's really into IFS, and we just enjoyed conversation with each other, and we realized being in conversation that there was all these cool things that were kind of coming up when we
Yeah,
talked to each other. And so we decided to write a book because it was like, let's talk about stuff and then put it in a book. And that's what
that's
we did.
fascinating. I like reading books by two people that have, like, got together on this common set of, beliefs, and they can,
Hmm.
like, really collaborate with each other to produce, like, this excellent material, and so that sounds, like, really good. I'm
Yeah.
excited about it.
Well, I think as you can tell, I'm a very like brain thinking person, and she's such a great counterbalance because she's very attuned to just emotions in her body, and
Yeah,
it's a great balance. So I really appreciate
cool.
working with her.
When is it available?
So we're doing a pre-launch right now, or pre-order. We're going to do a live event probably in 5 weeks, and we're going to build an online course to go with the book. And the book sales are happening now, and the actual books will be printed probably in
Okay.
about a month.
And then your live event, are you in
Hmm.
Seattle? Oh,
I'm
okay.
in Austin, so I lived in Seattle for 20
I had to
years.
Google your
Yeah.
area code when we talked yesterday. I didn't know you were in Austin. That's where my heart lives. I
Yeah.
love Austin. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Is that where your co-author lives too?
Actually, Kate and I have
Oh,
never met
wow.
in person. Yeah, she's on the East Coast, and yeah, it's just kind of a funny story because we've written a book, we've done some online courses together, and we've never
Yeah,
actually met. But yeah, we've been friends for I don't know,
okay.
almost 3 years now.
Um, there's a couple before we go, there was a couple questions we had asked you, before all this that your answers, made me
Mhm.
giggle. Okay, so
Mm.
what song would play in the intro of a movie about your life? Do you remember?
Goodness, I'm trying to remember
Oh
what I
my
wrote.
god.
Uh, all by myself by Celine Dion. I'm very dramatic in my mind. I'm very just like, oh God, what's going on? What's
When
happening
I
to
read
me?
that.
And this whole philosophy of like, life is happening to me, and all the drama.
I could so relate.
Yeah. So
We would have been good friends when we were little. Um,
yes, that's right.
and then what was another one that I can't remember, but I do. All right. So the last question we asked was, what would you tell your younger self? And so, what would you tell your younger self if you were sitting at dinner with yourself?
Yeah. Yeah, one of the most powerful things that I came across, there's a teacher named Locke Kelly, and he's like a meditation teacher. And he posed this question that you close your eyes and you ask yourself inside, what else is here if there's no problem to solve? And it paused my brain. It like the part of my mind that wants to solve problems and analyze, like paused for a second, and it created a space to be like just really present, which is kind of like a curious, oh yeah, what else is here if I'm not trying to solve a bunch of problems? So what I would tell my younger self is, oh man, who you are is not a problem
Mm,
to solve. And that God is an unconditional loving presence, not a judgmental one. And those two pieces of information, I think, would have helped me. Um, and I hope that that
for
helps other
sure.
people.
And I'm sure it will. I'm so glad that Daniel knows all these random people that know other people that know other people. And we were able to connect with you and have you on here. I'm
Yeah.
sure,
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some people who have never heard of IFS that maybe, hopefully learned some
Hmm.
today. And I don't know, I just thought it was really good. And is there anything though that we didn't touch on that you wanted to say or any closing thoughts that you have?
Well, what's incredible about being a human being is I do feel all of these challenges that we have, they teach us things. And I wouldn't change anything about my life because it's made me who I am. And I'm at a place in my life where, by sheer grace, I'm still here. And I want to be a part of a world where we learn to care about each other and learn to love ourselves. And this is all about service now. I have everything I need, and that feels like a gift. Sometimes I'm not sure I deserve it, but it's important for me to realize that I can give back now, and that's what I want to do. So that's what I'm hoping to. I'll be 58 this year, and a lot of my life was about learning about who I am and this kind of like inner journey, hero's journey, even if you want to say. And I feel like I'm at a place where I can take some of those lessons and gifts and try to be a
Yeah,
force for good. So that's what I'm trying
good,
to do.
good deal. All right. Well, I hope
Yeah.
everyone's enjoyed this episode of Recovery Lab. Thank you so much, Joe, for being here and teaching us some cool stuff. And I hope everyone has a good rest of their Sunday.